You're tuned into the Philly Fans Podcast with your hosts Daniel McDevitt and Ethan Whitney.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 8 of the Philly Fans Podcast. I'm Dan McDevitt, as always, joined by Ethan. Ethan, how are we doing?
We're doing good. The Phillies, however, ever since coming back from London, have had their fair share of struggles, both with the umpires behind the plate and just with the team themselves. We've been struck with a lot of injury, a lot to go over since we missed last week. Can't wait to just talk some baseball with you, Dan.
Yeah, no, there's a lot to go over. A lot of news with the MLB just in general is one of the big things that are hitting the Phillies is no more JT. I mean, National League leading catcher, and he's out now. So you got the chief in charge of vibes behind him,
Yep.
Garrett Stubbs. So I'm very upset, but confident Stubby can step up in there. He's had his fair share of games.
Yeah, I trust the depth of this team. Additionally, you have Rafael Marchand, who just anytime this kid comes up to the league, he just hits bombs for some reason. I think there was a statistic that went out that he has like 6 home runs in like 150 minor league games and like 8 and 20 MLB games or something like that. But I trust the depth of this team. Obviously, you can't replace JT Realmuto, and it sucks because we're just getting Trey back today as of the recording. So you would have wished to have this lineup fully healthy for the first time in months, but it's the baseball season. You got to just move on, keep going, power through it.
Yeah, he was put on 10-day injury list prior to Tuesday's series opening for one win in Boston and will undergo right knee meniscectomy surgery on Wednesday in Philadelphia, which already happened, of course. But
Yeah.
one thing that's going to be kind of rough is a lot of the pitchers for the Phillies love working with JT because of how
Yes.
in depth he is with working. He gets there early. He writes the game plans for most of the pitchers. Most of the pitchers don't work on their own game plans. JT just kind of does it himself, and a lot of the pitchers also appreciate like how big he is behind the plate. There's a big difference between him and Stubby because Stubby's a very short guy and JT is a much bigger guy, and they appreciate that they know balls are getting past him. We had the issue the other night with Rafael Marchand
Yes.
in the Orioles series where the ball just went right past him and it let up a run in what we thought wasn't going to be a run after a crazy dive there by Rafael Marchand that just
What a
wasn't enough.
game.
Yeah, that
That
was
was
that
such
was
a
a
good game.
great game.
But yeah, back to what you said. You can't really replace JT Realmuto in the sense that he's an exceptional, at bare minimum, exceptional defensive catcher. I think pitchers at bare minimum just feel so much more comfortable knowing that if there's a guy on first and they run, JT's probably going to get him. He's got a tank of an arm behind the plate, and you saw Zach Wheeler just yesterday, as of the day of this recording, starts with Stubby behind the plate, and he gets shelled 4 times. And I'm not going to blame that on Garrett Stubbs, you know what I mean? But I think it's undeniable that pitchers just feel more comfortable on the mound and more prepared on the mound when Ramuto is behind the dish.
Yeah, 100%. And like I said, that's gonna change up your game plan a lot because now you have the ability for players to steal bases when it comes down to it because you don't have that cannon that's behind the plate and it's gonna cause more and more issue. But luckily, it's only 30-day injured list. I mean, I'd like to see him not rush back into it. Like
Yeah.
I think the team is in a good spot right now where we can take our time with injury and not have to rush players back into the game like we did with Harper the other season. And it just kind of it leaves us openings for working around that kind of stuff. But over to the Orioles game because
Oof,
John Kruk said on the broadcast that was the best that's one of the best this is one of the best games of the season. Like that was
that
crazy.
was
Everything about that
exceptional.
series felt like a playoff series.
It did.
But
It was
that game one
amazing.
was amazing.
If you missed it, the Phillies did end up pulling it out 5-3 in 11 innings of play. You had Orion Kirkring, who's a guy we want to talk about, throwing that wild pitch, ended up tying the game after the review. It was so close. He was safe, but it was such a close review. And then after that happens, after Kirkring gets the third out in the 10th, we go into a rain delay for an hour and I think like an hour and 10 minutes. Just anything that could have happened in that game happened in that game.
Oh yeah, one of the things that like most reminded me of when that rain delay came in and we were in a tied game, about to go in like extra innings, and a rain delay came and stopped the game, like in that like most clutch of a moment. One thing it reminded me of was the 2016 World Series between the Chicago Cubs and Cleveland Guardians,
Oh my
when the
goodness.
rain delay came in, and that changed everything about the game,
Yeah.
and and basically gave the Cubs the win.
And
It
yeah,
came
obviously
to such advantage for them.
one of the most infamous rain clouds in history there. But
Yeah,
Orion
Cleveland
Kirkering,
Guardians.
Orion Kirkering is a guy. He's obviously very young. He has a lot of time to work on all this. He's an exceptional reliever. He has a 1.46 ERA, 28 Ks. A 1.46 ERA for a reliever is hard to wrap your head around sometimes.
Yeah,
But I think it's undeniable that he does have some control issues on the mound. And I think it did come to light in that game when he threw that wild pitch. And you could say Marchand should have had that. You could say Romuto would have had that. But yeah, at the same time, you have to work with. Excuse me, I'm stuttering here. You have to work with who's behind the plate, and it's just something that's become a growing concern with him. But I just want to know what you think about that. If that's a big concern to you, or if that's just a one-time wonder for you.
to be honest, he did have some control issues in that game, but I wouldn't focus on the Rafael Marchand one because that was just a pure error on his part. He should have had there is
Yeah,
no doubt about it. He should have had that ball, and it just I can agree that Orion Kirkering, yes, has some control issues, but he definitely shouldn't be boiled down to that.
yeah, I think that's fair. I just think, obviously, like I said, it's not a major concern. He's, I think, 22, give or take a couple years on that. I don't know his exact age, but he's extremely young. You have Caleb Cotham, who's an exceptional pitching coach. So it's not really a concern. It's just something that has come to light as he's been given. This is his first full season in the major leagues.
Yeah. Back to Citizens. I mean, not back to Citizens Bank Park. Back to Camden Yards. With just the atmosphere that game held,
Oh my
it was
God.
literally like a playoff series because you have two teams who are 100% clear cut possibilities to see each other in sometime in the playoffs, and with them being in two separate conferences, I'm not gonna speculate, but they're two really good teams, and it was a great atmosphere. But yeah, they were. I saw a tweet the other day that they were calling it Citizens Bank Park South, and I like it.
I do. I don't want to throw shade at Orioles fans because I think you do have a great fan base down there in Baltimore, but I think it was either they have three sellouts or four sellouts this year, and either two or three of them came in that series. The other one was on opening day.
Yeah,
So, and it was, you could tell it was at least 80% Phillies fans in the first game of the series. I mean, it was exceptional, and just like you said, it had all the excitement, all the like plot twists in the game, and all the atmosphere that
great
felt
teams
like
draw
a playoff
crowds.
game. It was amazing.
Yeah. Um, I really think I think I would like to see a rivalry between those two teams with just being how close proximity the Orioles
Yeah,
are
it
to
would be
the
a fantastic
Phillies.
rivalry.
It would be a great rivalry, but I gotta throw a little praise at the Orioles organization with just how little of money they have and how much they're competing in what is a very dominant league to those who make a lot of money
Yeah,
because they are just sitting down teams that they really shouldn't be. We were talking about them 2 years ago as one of the worst teams in the MLB, and
an
now
embarrassment to
they are.
baseball.
Yeah, I mean that's well, I don't know. I think it all boils down to you need a maximum salary cap because
That's a touchy subject because I think at the
things
same
with
time you
Los
can
Angeles.
incorporate that now. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, now you're completely screwed. The MLB kind of ruined it for themselves.
Yeah,
There's no way of ever doing that now because you'd have to wait 10 years.
yeah.
You'd
You'd have
have
to
to
wait
make a
at least 10
mandate
years,
now, and then you have to wait 10 years to officially make it a rule
and
because
even
you
then you
have
could have even crazier contracts by then.
yeah.
So it's
And
almost impossible. But the Corbin Burns extension is going to be interesting for them because obviously they traded for him from the Brewers to get that ace that they needed. I'd have to imagine that they're going to cough up the money for him because he's just so good. But it's going to be interesting to see what the numbers on that look like.
yeah, and it's gonna be if he like appreciates the franchise, he might take a cut, but like if not, he's gonna be out of there because Orioles really don't have much money to pay their players, and that's just it's gonna boil down to that. So it's really how long can they keep up a franchise because all their players are mostly homegrown
Yeah,
and came from their farms, so they're not paying them as much as they will be in the next 5 years. So it's really gonna come down to how long they can keep this up.
I think it's also going to be interesting because we haven't really seen this new ownership group in action, right? So this could be an ownership group that's like, I mean, there isn't an ownership group like Steve Cohen; he just throws money and everything. But they could be very willing to spend money, or they could be like the owners previous to them, where they're just way more hesitant. But I mentioned the trade for Corbin Burns, and I wanted to pitch this to you, a possible trade that the Phillies could be making come August. Chicago White Sox outfielder Luis Robert. Definition of a power hitting slugger, also definition of a guy with some injury concerns. There's obviously a ton of pros to having him in the lineup, ton of cons to having him in the lineup. Going to be a very interesting discussion. But I want to know what you think. The Padres are apparently the White Sox are apparently looking for packages close to the Juan Soto deal. So at the same time, you got to wonder that's not worth it. You know what I mean? But definitely going to be an interesting discussion.
Do you have any? Let's start with you here first. Do you have any ideas for a trade that you would send over to Luis for Luis?
I think the only people in my that are untouchable in my mind would be Andrew Painter, Aiden Miller, and then I'd be willing to throw in just a couple prospects. I think Mick Abel would be a guy who potentially sees himself getting moved. I think even a guy like Johan Rojas could end up getting moved if he ends up getting optioned down to AAA. We'll see how that works. That announcement may have come out already, but
Yeah,
I
I
haven't seen
believe
it.
I saw today he's getting an option to AAA.
I could see him getting moved. I don't think they will move him because Rob Thompson really likes Johan Rojas, but I think at the end of the day, we should be able to get a good trade for him because the White Sox don't have leverage here.
Yeah. I'm gonna be honest. Don't overspend on this. Sorry. Don't overspend on Luis. This trade is just not. I don't think we should like. I don't think we should go all out for Luis because
Yeah,
yes, he for 13 hits, he has 7 home runs. But let's put this into a bigger spectrum. 13 hits, 7 home runs. Awesome. That's great. Except he's been at bat for 70 times and he's only hit the ball 13 times. That is just that's absurd. I mean, like he's not reliable in any way. I mean, he gets injured. He can't hit the ball well. When he can hit it, he'll slug it, but he doesn't see the ball the majority of the time. There's no reason to overspend. He could be the same level of prospect that Johan Rojas could be. And
I think
yes, I would be
yeah,
fine swapping, but it really like I wouldn't overspend that kind of or add more in for that deal. Like I feel like they're just two equal prospects. The only trade I could see in my mind is Johan Rojas for Luis.
I kind of disagree with you because I don't think Dave Dombrowski is going to sell the farm in any way for Luis Robert. I don't think any team is going to sell the farm for Luis Robert. He's not a sell the farm kind of guy, but I think he is coming off of an injury, so I do give him the benefit of the doubt there. He's, I believe, just returned a couple weeks ago as of the 17th of June, but I think he's a guy when he gets going. I mean, we saw those White Sox. I mean, it's obviously weird to bank it off the White Sox teams of the past, just because you look at the White Sox now. But my point is, what he can do, and I think the possible return for him could be so minimal that it just seems like it can't really be a trade. Even if he doesn't perform, it can't really be a trade that you lose. If that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And the issue is, yeah, we don't have much room to. I mean, they don't have much room to like negotiate because they kind of just need to start selling away and getting new players into their system. But the issue is we're going to be competing with other teams. Is other teams are going to want an outfielder like the Los Angeles Dodgers. Mookie Betts and is now injured. He fractured his hand
Oof.
after getting hit with a ball. Looked brutal. There is a lot of small bones and nerves in your hand that just get absolutely ruined. And he got belted by a 98-mile-per-hour fastball. So
Yeah,
yeah, they're definitely going to be looking for someone like Luis Robert to wait, is it Luis Robert or Luis
I believe
Robert?
it's Robert,
Robert,
but
okay. But yeah, they're going to be wanting someone, and their Dodgers can spend. They're
we
good
know
at that.
that. Yeah, we know that. Obviously, the Dodgers are going to throw money at anything that can hit a baseball or throw a baseball. Obviously, throwing a baseball, you also have Yoshinobu Yamamoto, who has a torn rotator cuff. I believe I looked up the injury time for that. I believe it's an average of about 4 weeks, so about a month, which is the Dodgers. Obviously, they do have a lot of young arms in that rotation. They will be fine. And Yoshinobu Yamamoto, though, he's a guy you can't. There's a select few guys where it's hard to really replace them, and the Dodgers don't have a guy who can replace them. Not that they don't have good arms, but they don't have a guy who can fill in and be another Yamamoto, obviously. And now you're down Betts, and it
Yeah,
sets up an
those are
opportunity.
cornerstone guys.
Yeah, it sets up an opportunity to link this to the Phillies. This is where we need to create our distance because they've been gaining on us.
Yeah, 100%. It's going to be about creating distance here. This is your opportunity to win. This is literally like the opportunity to win the conference here. If you can get so far ahead of the Dodgers here, then that settles everything. But yeah, the only thing I wanted to really add to that is with the rotator cuff. That's a hard injury to come off of, especially in your
It
throwing
is.
arm. That's
Yeah.
going to be. I really don't see it being 4 weeks till he's back in his prime, I'd say, but like
Yeah.
it's not going to be good for a little while. He's probably not going to be the same pitcher he was for just a little while. But I do want to add in 1, 2, 3, I think 4. Yeah, 4 weeks. In 4 weeks, is that correct? Yeah, 4 weeks. 4 weeks. Yes, I'm correct. For exactly 4 weeks.
To the
The
day.
the Phillies will be taking on the Los Angeles Dodgers in a 3-game series.
Ooh. That's just before the All Star break, if I'm correct, right?
Yeah, it's before the All-Star break, then we play Oakland, and then we are on All-Star break. Um, yeah, so the Phillies will be playing the Dodgers, and depending on the timeline, if he's back exactly in 4 weeks, he will be throwing in this series.
And that,
So this sets up a lot of opportunity because you have a very injured Los Angeles team, and yes,
yes.
we're injured too. I'm not gonna say that, but um, we're gonna be playing the Los Angeles Dodgers, and to get them when they're down is gonna be perfect if we're going to try to win this conference this year.
Exactly. And you also have 1 month for JT, 4 weeks. Chance he returns at the same time there. And 1 month is about, as of a couple days, like I think 5 or 6 days ago at this point. So he could end up being back there. And I think for Yamamoto, like you said, it's a torn rotator cuff. So he's going to be thrown off for probably at least 5 weeks in terms of like till he's actually back to being that superstar that he can be. So they might, just because it's the All Star break right there, they might shut him down for the first half of the season, just so when he comes back after the All Star break, he's got more than enough time to come back and be that guy rather than either risk him coming back out there and re-damaging it or coming back out there and just not being good.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense because it would give him more time. Definitely, it would give him another week to heal, but it would give him about a week and a half. But then 3 weeks after that, the Phillies go on to play the New York Yankees, which are
Best team in
they're a good
baseball right now.
team. Last time I checked, let me check again. Since I already have the
They're
schedule open. Um,
51,
yeah, I believe it's 50. It's 50, 24. Yeah, they're 50 and
50 and 24.
24.
That is insane.
But I just want to add the Phillies also have the same amount of lost games. They have 24 lost games. We're 47 for 24. So even basically, if you really look at it, we're even.
Yankees are just an accept. I mean, what Juan Soto has done for that team. I mean, he basically the two big moves that they made were adding Juan Soto and adding Alex Verdugo. But basically, adding Juan Soto. No disrespect to Alex Verdugo, but he's not doing this. But adding Juan Soto basically turned a team that was I think 82 and 80 last year into a team that should be considered favorites to come out of the AL. And this just I don't want them to come out of the AL. I'm not. I'm not the. If the Yankees can somehow mess this up, I'm all here for it. But they're just such a good team. That's going to be such a good series just for baseball. You know what I mean? It's just going to be exceptional. A team that, like we said with the Orioles earlier, another team we could find ourselves facing in October. I'm not going to say when, but facing in
Yeah,
October.
they are definitely a face in October kind of team, and it's. I think that second half of the season, it's well, that's always what it is. But second half of the season is going to be real show up kind of the season because we're gonna have the Yankees. Oh wait, sorry, never mind, because we play the Dodgers in the first half. But yeah, I mean this month's gonna be good for baseball. If you're a baseball fan, you got three great teams facing off against each other, and yeah, it's gonna be fun to watch.
I mean, yeah, you mentioned the second half of the season. I do want to bring this up before we move on. This first half, Yankees fans especially should know this. This first half of the season means nothing because think back to 2 years ago when the Yankees were the best, had a historically good start for their franchise. Aaron Judge broke the home run record. Second half of the season, I think they went 31 and 31 even, then scraped by the Guardians in the first round in 5 games and got decimated by the Astros in the ALCS. So
Forgot about that. Yeah,
they
that's true.
collapsed in every way. They have one of the worst. Excuse me. They have one of the hardest offenses to watch in baseball. So Yankees fans should know this, especially. It's not over, and that's a message not just to the Yankees, for the Phillies, for any team in baseball. This is a marathon, not a sprint. It's 162 games.
Yeah, not to mention they aren't like destined to win the division. Right
No,
behind
not
them
at
in their
all.
division is the Baltimore Orioles, who are 47 and 24 and have a real shot at winning that division. So
Absolutely.
one of them's coming in at a wild card spot, and it's gonna come down to the second half of the season because both teams aren't well. Let me choose my words wisely here. The Yankees haven't been great in the second half of the season. The Baltimore Orioles don't really know what playoffs are, so it's gonna be wild to see who comes out on top.
I think, yeah, Baltimore Orioles, you mentioned that. I trust this Orioles team infinitely more than I did last year's team because obviously now they've been there. Now they've been to the playoffs. They've won their division. They've been the number one seed. And they added Corbin Burns, a guy who's also been there and done that. So it's going to be very interesting. That's going to be like this race for the AL East is going to be, in my mind, similar to what the race for the NL or the AL West was last year when you had the Mariners, Astros, and Rangers. Obviously, it's not really a third team for the AL, but it's going to come down to the final day of the regular season kind of thing. And even then, for these teams for their schedule, there isn't an easy in division matchup except for maybe like the Blue Jays because they're a disaster right now. But like even then, you have the Rays who aren't great, but they're still a respectable team, kind of middle of the pack. The Red Sox are surprisingly average this year. I thought they were going to be a lot worse than they are. There's just it's going to be you're fighting for tooth and nail for every spot in this division.
Yeah, so I'm looking at Yankee schedule right now, and they for their last series of the season they're playing Pittsburgh, but then the one before that, their second to last game of second to last series of the season, they are playing the Baltimore Orioles in a 3-game
God,
series. So
so
it'll probably feel like a playoff series.
that's probably where the division gets decided.
Yeah, and I don't know if the Pirates can heat up some, it might be a fight for the Pirates getting a wild card spot, but
It's a
they'd have to
better
do a little
division.
bit better than they've been doing as of recently. So I'm
Yeah.
not gonna speculate on that one.
Pirates, it's a learning year for them. They're a young team. They're trying to get better. It's gonna be they're starting to see the the fruits of their labor of all these years of being bad, but they're still got a long way to go.
Yeah, the Baltimore Orioles, their final series of the season is going to be the Minnesota Twins,
Ooh,
which is much more tough. So it's gonna be a fight to the end for these Orioles to make um a division spot. But
speaking of the Twins, sorry to cut you off. How about we haven't talked about the AL Central? I don't think once on this podcast this year, because who would have
yeah, I, I
thought
I looked I just looked at their standings and I was like, oh, that's happening.
it's insane. You have the Tigers who are decent. I think they're a game or two below 500. Then you have like the big three of the AL Central. You have the Royals who are having such a good year with Bobby Witt Jr. The Twins who are having Carlos Correa. He's kind of on like a revival tour right now. And then you have the Guardians. And speaking of the Guardians, you have Stephen Kwan batting three. Let me make sure I don't mess this up batting 398 with a 4.56 on base percentage, 2.7 WAR. Granted, there's the asterisks. He's had 176 at bats, which is on the lower side of the team, but that's still like they're getting production from guys that you wouldn't have even had circled.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna be honest here. That is wild. I really like I'm gonna be perfectly honest. I haven't looked at the AL Central once this season. And I'm looking at the standings right now, and that is hard to process that the Cleveland Guardians, the Kansas City Royals, and the Minnesota Twins are doing great in their division.
I mean, that is
I feel
just.
like whenever I looked at the AL Central, I saw the White Sox first, and it was just a stain. I was like, let me push that away. Darkest part of my mind. But yeah, I want to point out that is wild. 27 games behind for the Chicago White
They're
Sox.
27 games behind.
Yeah.
Oh my god, it's June.
First, second to that is the Miami Marlins, who are
Marlins, yeah.
24 games behind.
God, it's June. That's gonna get up to like 50.
Yeah, these are bad.
Speaking of
I
teams
haven't
that
looked at the
are
standings in a while. It's a lot to process. I like it.
I think we might have a bit of a Philly fans podcast curse going here because when we talked about the Cubs, I think 3 or 4 weeks ago, and talking about how they were going to be a contender for the NL, ever since we started talking about the Cubs, it has been just nothing but bad luck for the Cubs. They were looking like such a
Lost
good team
three
that
for
they've
seven.
collapsed. I'm pulling up their record right now, but they I think second or third in the NL Central, which they were favored to win. They
Yeah, I think we might have a curse. The Phillies are gonna do awful this season. They ain't winning nothing.
the Phillies
Gotta reverse the curse.
got to reverse the curse. The Phillies have a 96 run differential. Oh my god. The Cubs aren't
96 runs.
second in the NL Central. They're not third or fourth. They are last. They are
If you want to talk about
34
run
and
differential,
38.
you gotta look at the Yankees' run differential. The Yankees have 124 run differential.
Jesus. And the Orioles have 114. Oh my god. All right, I got to get off ESPN, but
But yeah. So I want to point another thing out with the Dodgers and just how I feel. I'm gonna say it. How wildly overrated the Los Angeles Dodgers are. I said
okay.
it. I said it. You can't. Listen. Come postseason, we'll see who's correct.
That's true. I mean, obviously
Come
it's been
postseason,
decided in October.
everything is decided in October. I'll tell you that.
Here's the thing: I don't trust like the Dodgers. I think on their roster, it's undeniable the amount of talent that they have. I mean, even just last weekend, you had Teoscar Hernandez just being Teoscar Hernandez. I love that guy. I would love to root for him. It sucks that he's playing for the Dodgers because I love him as a player. But you have Dave Roberts as your manager, a guy who's pretty infamous for one reason or another. His team's not doing good in the playoffs. So I think when you get to, let's say it's a very well managed team like the Milwaukee Brewers, who don't have Craig Counsell anymore, but they're still a very well run team top to bottom going up against the Dodgers. I think Dave Roberts, my point is, I think the success of this team in the postseason hinges on Dave Roberts' decision making because he's the only thing that can stop himself from
I
pretty
just can't
much.
root for a team that pays their way to a World Series. I just can't.
I
But
can't root for them because they're fans, but
oh, dude, their fans are they're fake. They're fake. Their fans are go to the ballpark for an hour. This was fun, and let's leave by the third inning.
yeah, we said this earlier. Like West Coast fans and East Coast fans are not the same. It's
Yes,
just
West
it's not
Coast.
the same.
There's
And
a lot that
small
boils
market.
down to it, but yeah, East Coast fans are much better than West Coast fans, and there's just more care for their teams. They're so much more dedicated. Like I'm not gonna say there's not dedicated fans on the
Yeah,
West Coast that are like die hard for their teams, and you could look at that in the NFL and everything to that than any league. But
Seahawks.
yeah, that's it. Yeah, they're a pretty dedicated fan base. But can you say the same about the Mariners? Do they go to their Mariners team and they're like doing the same?
I don't know. I think the Mariners have a pretty good fan base. It's been a while since they've hosted a home playoff game. I don't want to throw shade at the Mariners here. I'll throw
I'm not
shade at
throwing
like
shade at the Mariners. I'm throwing shade at the West Coast.
I'll throw shade at like any team in Los Angeles except for like the Dodgers because they were there first. But obviously, there's still like a lot of bandwagon fans there. But like a team that did have a great West Coast fan base was the San Diego Chargers. Well, now they're in Los Angeles. They're sharing a stadium with like the big brother
Sold
Los
out.
Angeles Rams. So a lot
Are
of
there
yeah,
even
this
any Chargers fans anymore?
I don't think so. Especially since this team is not. It's they have Jim Harbaugh, but like they're not gonna be good this year. We got to get back to baseball, but we got.
If you're a Chargers fan, listen, reach out. You probably need to talk. But yeah, so
our DMs are open.
the stat I wanted to add is the Dodgers are still, even with these injuries, plus 140 favorites to win the National League, with the
Oh,
Phillies behind at plus 270 per FanDuel.
I don't think that comes down to like a regular season thing. You know what I mean? Because I think FanDuel's thinking about these guys are assuming that it's a fully healthy Phillies roster versus a fully healthy Dodgers roster. I don't particularly blame FanDuel for taking that super team in Los Angeles, but obviously, you can't really calculate like the art of the choke pretty much. You know what I mean? I think it's a lot more even than people are going to say it is because I think the Phillies are just a team that one way or another finds ways to win, while the Dodgers are kind of known for finding ways to lose. So I think it's going to be like if this is an NLCS matchup, which it would be, 7 game series, no doubt in my mind.
That's fair. I hope it ends in Citizen Bank Park, the Loud House.
Yep.
But yeah, we are about to hit our 30-minute mark, and it's about time we talk about where you can find us. Ethan,
Yep. You can find us on TikTok. We are posting a ton of stuff over there at Philly Fans Podcast, and on Twitter. We had a lot of interesting discussions with Orioles fans over the weekend about the umpiring in that series, which we didn't get to. But I'm sure if you watch the series, you know what we're talking about. You can find me and Dan individually at our @s right here. I'm at Ethan
on Twitter.
underscore W6. Yep, on Twitter. Dan is at DMCDevitt25, if that's correct.
Yep, D McDevitt. Yeah, D McDevitt 25. I wasn't
All
able to
right.
get D McDevitt 525.
So yeah, definitely go check us out. We post there all the time. We'd love to hear what you guys have to say during the Phillies games. We're always running polls over on the Twitter. So definitely go check us out. Become part of the
And
fan
don't
base.
forget, every Monday, the Philly Fans Podcast, right here.
Hopefully every Monday.
Hopefully every Monday. We try our best. All right. You can find it on YouTube or Spotify. I think that
Yep.
wraps it up, Ethan.
Yep. I think that's all we got. See you guys next week, and hopefully we can see the Phillies play some great baseball while we're here. You know, we missed a week and things didn't go so well.
Yeah. Thank you for watching the Philly Fans Podcast. See ya.
See ya.